My world shifted irreversibly on a Saturday in 1999. I wasn't sure, but I sensed Grace had discovered something about me. But when we got back, Lara was there by the gate. After a brief greeting, I pulled her aside for a private conversation filled with whispered arguments, tension, and questions. When Lara finally left, it felt like she had left part of her toxic energy behind because Grace was different. She asked who Lara was, and I brushed it off. "It is nothing. Just someone like a mentee," I lied, and she needed money. That week passed in a blur. Grace became more distant, and I kept asking if something was wrong. Her answers were always vague. "It will pass, it's nothing," or "I'm just not feeling well." Then came Saturday, January 2nd, 1999. Grace didn't say a word. Her silence was loud and deafening. Her inaction screamed.
I cussed, I begged. I tried every tone, soft, harsh, hoping to break through. But she remained mute. It wasn't the first time she had given me the silent treatment, but this time it was unbearable. I feared she might harm herself. She'd always warned me to keep my distance when she entered this state of silent madness. From the start of our relationship, I always begged for peace and wanted to mend things after every argument. I didn't know this would become a pattern throughout our marriage.
Angry and frustrated, I drove off to clear my head. I came back with flowers and gifts, desperate to make things right. I even transferred some money into her account, determined to fix whatever was wrong that night. But when I got home, Grace was gone. There was no Grace. I did not meet the Grace I left behind. Instead, I met a note and her body. Lifeless. She took her life. I can't describe the torrent of emotions that hit me. How did we get here? Is this a nightmare? Suicide? My Grace? How? I felt like I was losing my mind. I had no idea what was going on in her head. I was unsure what got Grace into that state of being so distant. I thought she heard my conversation with Lara. I assumed she was angry because she discovered I had cheated on her. Yes, Lara was an old fling. We reconnected recently because of work, and I clarified that I was married. I cheated once, and I regretted everything. Lara's been bugging me since then. I was going to tell Grace, but never found the right time. And now, what I thought had been plaguing her mind wasn't even close. Tears fell as I read her note. She wrote that she felt like a failure, unable to conceive, struggling with academics, her business crumbling. I knew all these and thought we were good because I constantly encouraged and supported her. I was surprised to read that she slept with one miracle baby maker out of desperation and still didn't get pregnant. She felt terrible and felt her life was a waste. She couldn't see a life of purpose ahead of her. I lack purpose. Living isn't for failures, and I am one. Dr. Ray, I'm sorry. I would never hear her call me Dr. Ray again. I thought back to a church service Grace had once dragged me to, where a young preacher had spoken words of wisdom. He said, "May your grace never be silent. Pray against silent grace." I had scoffed at the time, dismissing him as shallow. I had no idea that those words would come to haunt me. Grace. My Grace. If only she had spoken to me, or to anyone. If only I had tried harder. If only I had been a better husband. The silence that consumed her that led to her death is something I'll always regret. I wish we had the chance to say everything. I wish she had known we were both struggling. We were both a mess. Or maybe she knew all along. But Grace should not have died like that. Oh, Grace. Our secrets and our silence became a lifetime of pain.